So, General, my final question, I'm concerned about morale in the military. We've discussed in this hearing how the world is getting more and more dangerous, and yet at the same time I think we are dramatically undermining our readiness, our ability to defend this nation. The Military Times did a survey where in 2009 they asked soldiers whether overall the quality of life is good or excellent. 91% said yes. In 2014, that number had dropped from 91% to 56%. Likewise, they asked whether the senior military leadership has my best interest at heart. In 2009, 53% agreed. In 2014, that had dropped in half to roughly 27%. Do you share the concerns about declining morale in the military? And if so, what do you see as the causes of it and the proper approach to fix it?
No, Senator, thanks for the question. First of all, with regard to the morale of our force, it's clearly one of the things that distinguishes us, and I was able to say in my own opening statement that we have the most capable military force in the world today, and that clearly is rooted in the men and women that we have in uniform and their willingness to do what we've asked them to do over the last decade, and it's not something I'd be complacent about. I do have concerns as a service chief about how hard we've been running our men and women over the last few years. As an example, Senator, you know, we had a plan where we wanted to have a 1-to-3 deployment to dwell ratio. That means our forces would be deployed about 7 months, home for 21 months. That allowed us to get adequate training, allowed us to take care of the families, allowed the Marines to kind of be at what I describe as the sustained rate of fire. Many of our units now inside the Marine Corps are at or below a 1-to-2 deployment to dwell rate, so they're home for less than twice as much time. So they'll be deployed for 7 months, home less than 14 months, and back out again, and that continues on, and certainly has an effect on the families and again, our ability to train across the range of military operations. If I'm confirmed, Senator, this is absolutely going to be one of the areas that I focus on. I think I have a responsibility to lead the young men and women in uniform. I think I have a responsibility to represent them. And when I say represent them, that means to articulate to our leadership, both here on the Hill as well as in the executive branch, what material support, what leadership, what resources they need to remain the finest fighting force, you know, in the United States. And it bothers me greatly if our young men and women don't have confidence in their senior leadership. And I can tell you that every day when I wake up, if I'm confirmed, that'll be an issue, a priority for me, that'll be exactly what I seek to do, is gain the trust and confidence of our young men and women and let them know that they are, in fact, properly represented back here in Washington, D.C., and that we as leaders recognize that we're asking them to do a lot, and they don't ask much more in return than to have the wherewithal to accomplish the mission with minimal loss of life or equipment. And I'll commit to you that that's exactly what I'll do.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hasn't sequestration bred uncertainty, which has contributed to this drop in morale?
Chairman, thanks. I should have mentioned that when I talked about how busy the forces are. There is a tremendous amount of angst across the force, and a large part of that is driven by the uncertainty about how big the force will be, what will happen to their particular careers, and will we have the equipment necessary to accomplish the mission. So I do think, Chairman, that sequestration is a factor.